Do you remember the time when Superman broke his neck and still managed to be the emotional anchor of a generation? Yeah, that guy. Christopher Reeve, the one with the jawline sharp enough to slice deli meat and a voice smoother than your last apology text.
Mr. Reeve, it is very important you become a serious classical actor. Unless, of course, they offer you a load of money to do something else.
You think your last relationship had baggage? Try dating a literal icon whose most famous role involves tights and existential pressure. If you think that's weird, just wait till you hear about the woman who didn't just love him when he could fly but stuck around after gravity won. Before we dive into this absolute dumpster fire, with, touching moments and true devotion sprinkled in like emotional MSG, smash that like button and subscribe. Or don't. I'm not your mom. Oh, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Preferably not from jail. Right then, buckle up. This one's messier than a dog wedding in a thunderstorm. So here's the scene. It's the mid-90s. Everyone's dressing like background actors from Friends. And Superman, aka Christopher Reeve, has a literal fall from grace. 1 second he's on a horse, the next he's in a coma. His spine? Cracked at the C1 and C2 vertebrae. His odds of surviving? 50-50. But Dana, his wife of just 3 years at that point, tells the man who played the strongest being in the universe, "You're still you, and I love you." Cue every cynical cell in your body short-circuiting. Reeve was paralyzed from the neck down after a horse-riding accident in 1995 and needed a ventilator for the rest of his life. A week after the accident, Reeve allegedly asked Dana if he should just let go. She stared down the most beloved man in America and basically said, "Not on my watch, Kal-El." Some still argue if it was pure devotion or a PR power move, but hey, if it was strategic, it deserves an Emmy. And just like that, Superman stayed on Earth, and in a wheelchair, but Dana didn't blink. That's not love. That's either divine patience or chronic caffeine dependency. You ever try to hold down a job, raise a kid, and also become your partner's full-time medical advocate? No? Well, Dana Reeve did all three while America watched and judged from behind tabloid covers and Oprah reruns. Post-accident, Christopher Reeve didn't just lie there looking iconic in a wheelchair. No, the man practically invented the inspirational comeback genre. He gave interviews, he directed a movie, he lobbied Congress, because when Superman can't walk, apparently he starts doing cardio with the government. But guess who was behind every one of those appearances, speech drafts, and emotional CPR sessions? Dana, in kitten heels and a will of steel. Dana Reeve became chair of the Christopher Reeve Foundation and advocated fiercely for stem cell research and disability rights alongside her husband. At one event, someone actually mistook Dana for a hired PR handler and tried to redirect her away from her own husband. She smiled politely and said, "I'm his wife," which is the saltest verbal backhand in history. Some still wonder if Dana sacrificed her entire identity for the Superman's wife role. Others think she simply chose the kind of loyalty that makes the rest of us look like flaky cereal. And if you're thinking, well, maybe she didn't have anything better going on, let's be clear. Dana was a Broadway actress and singer before all this. She didn't just drop a career. She dropped the stage for a guy who could no longer scratch his nose. And somehow, she never made it look like charity. More like choreography with tears, bills, and late-night ice cream breakdowns in the mix. Honestly, if devotion had a face, it'd probably look exhausted, underpaid, and somehow still be smiling through bad lighting. Just like Dana. Ah yes, the part where Superman gets political. And suddenly everyone's got an opinion, including your aunt who thinks stem cells come from aliens. Christopher Reeve didn't just survive the accident. He took his paralysis, duct taped it to a microphone, and turned it into the most articulate middle finger ever given to American healthcare apathy. He became a walking, rolling reminder that the system is broken. Dana, meanwhile, was right there beside him in Senate hearings and press junkets, doing the unpaid emotional labor of making him look untouchable, even when everything underneath was duct tape, courage, and 12 Red Bulls. In 2000, Reeve spoke at the Democratic National Convention, calling for more federal funding for stem cell research, which Republicans love, obviously. According to one aide, Dana once corrected a senator mid-sentence during a private meeting with that smile that says, "I will end you." Politely, it worked. The senator backpedaled so hard he nearly fell out of his loafers. Some say Chris's activism was Dana's idea all along. Others claim she just followed his lead. But let's be real. She was driving that policy prize with GPS, a coffee, and zero patience for bureaucratic nonsense. While America squabbled over the morality of Petri dishes, Dana and Chris kept showing up, cleaned up, smiling, and sounding smarter than most campaign strategists. And in between, they still had to manage things like bowel routines, fundraising galas, and trying not to cry on Larry King. The fact that Dana didn't throw a shoe at anyone on live TV remains one of the great acts of restraint in modern politics. Because she knew the moment you flinch, the media turns you from devoted to deranged. So she held the line, polished, fierce, exhausted, radiant. Let's talk about the part where it all started slipping. And no, not metaphorically. Like, literally, time started folding in on itself, and grief moved in, stole the remote, and refused to leave. After a decade of being everyone's favorite power couple on wheels, tragedy did what tragedy does best. It kept going. Christopher Reeve passed away in 2004 after a pressure wound turned into a full-body infection that even his titanium wool couldn't fight off. The guy survived a horse flipping on his neck, but couldn't beat sepsis. If that doesn't make you want to scream into a pillow, I don't know what does. His death devastated millions, but especially Dana, who kept working with the Christopher Reeve Foundation, now renamed to include her. A friend later shared that Dana had a necklace made from one of Chris's old wheelchair boats. Yeah, try topping that for romantic memorabilia. Some believe Dana stayed strong for Will, their young son. Others argue she was simply running on autopilot, like a grief-scented Roomba with press credentials. But here's the kicker. Just 17 months after losing Chris, Dana was diagnosed with lung cancer. Never smoked a day in her life. And no, this isn't where I tell you there's a miracle. Because there wasn't. She died in 2006 at just 44 years old. At this point, the universe wasn't just throwing punches. It was drop-kicking this family into oblivion with Olympic-level cruelty. And yet, even then, their legacy didn't evaporate. It doubled down. People kept donating, kept fighting, kept remembering that once, two people stared down tragedy like it was an annoying stagehand and said, "You're not in this scene." Because love like that doesn't end. It echoes, relentlessly. And now we're left with echoes. A foundation. A sun. A museum of broken capes and brighter days. Because the Reeve story didn't just end. It mutated into legacy, into cause, into, please don't let this happen to someone else without hope. After Dana died, their son Will was just 13. He'd already lost two parents, one to a fall and one to a fluke, in less time than it takes most kids to get through middle school. But plot twist, he didn't become a tabloid disaster or a sad reality show contestant. Instead, he grew up, quietly, gracefully. And now, as an ESPN reporter and ambassador for the Reeve Foundation, he talks about his parents like you talk about the weather. Normal, everyday legends who just happen to be superheroes in flannel pajamas. Will Reeve has continued their mission, raising millions for spinal cord injury research and publicly speaking about the grief, the love, and the myth of the word incurable. 1 year on his birthday, Will posted a photo with a cardboard cutout of Superman in his living room. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't cringe. It just was. Some say Will Reeve is living proof that love can outlast biology, fame, and absolutely brutal luck. Others wonder if the world learned anything at all, or if we're just better at making tragic montages now. So yeah, maybe fame is a disease, or maybe love is the kind that refuses to pack up even when everything else does. The kind that writes its own sequel, with or without the original cast. All right, that's enough chaos for one day. Go outside, touch grass. Or don't. I'm not your therapist.